But it all happened really quickly in any event.
Yeah. And so that experience didn't so much supercharge the acting as much as it definitely made me realize like the power of the internet. And it also made me realize like the power of just going out and doing your own thing, regardless of what anyone else says. That, you know, what I was able to do and so many other people, and even like such a like a much bigger way than I have been able to do, essentially like undermines the millions of dollars spent on public relations and publicity every year by actors. We're like getting on these major shows and sort of like getting talked about because what we did is like sort of part of like the zeitgeist of culture, and people just want to hear about it, versus like having to pay someone to go out there and be your publicist and get you talked about, get you noticed. Like there was just a lot of, I think there was like a big learning curve in there for me. And it sort of shifted the way I thought about the industry. And it definitely solidified the fact that I was like, wow, this internet thing isn't going away. And I definitely want to be a part of this whole, I want to be a part of it.
YouTube was still pretty new at that time.
So it was 2007. You definitely couldn't make any money off of it. I think their partner program launched a couple months after I put out Hot for Hillary. And yeah, it was really new. Like I didn't think that YouTube was of real value at that time. So I didn't put much stock in putting out like more videos after Hot for Hillary, which I should have.
But you acted. Is that did that lead to you back into acting?
Well, like I said, it was sort of, I think the acting thing was happening simultaneously. I was auditioning, I did get an agent. So the Hot for Hillary didn't necessarily get me the agent or get me, but it certainly helped my confidence. I think that I could be creative and do something outside of hosting. And it also sort of made me realize, like at that time I was hosting for a lot of, like I was hosting for AT&T and sort of working with a lot of bigger brands. And I was a little concerned about me doing this like sort of racy internet stuff on the side. And I just decided to get it in my head at that point in time, like you're never going to be able to please anyone, Taryn. So just do you. And if companies don't like it and they want to fire you, then they will, and hopefully they won't. And so just kind of making that decision was really important. But at that time I started acting, auditioning, really not acting. I wasn't getting any jobs. And it probably took like a year and a half to book my first acting job after like audition after audition after audition. And it doesn't get easier.
What was that job?
That job was, well, I mean, there was a couple of gigs I had. There's a movie I did called Senior Skip Day. And then, but really like my first audition, there was a web series called Sorority Forever that Warner Brothers was doing. It was like their first big budget web series. McG, who people know from like Charlie's Angels, he was the director of Jake. His company was producing this like bigger budget web series. And I was one of the lead roles in that. And I shot that over like a month in Washington with a bunch of girls. It's called Sorority Forever. Debuted on MySpace and the WB.com. And I would say like that was kind of my first like big role in something.
Okay, now were you writing at that time too?
Yes, at that time I was writing. I had sold my first web series, Private High Musical, to a company called 60 Frames, who was financing content. It was kind of the first company out there financing content, and they gave me some money based on this pitch that I had. So I was like shooting Sorority Forever and writing dirty songs at night in my hotel room when we would finish shooting. And like the second that we finished Sorority Forever, I had to get my butt back to LA to make this web series for 2 weeks. It was a busy year. And then at the same time I had booked an MTV pilot called Bedroom Video Star that I was the host of, where it's about young people competing in basically like karaoke competitions across the country from their bedrooms via webcam. And it was like the first sort of interactive competition show, and that was really cool. So I was like flying to like New York and shooting pilot, and then I'd come back and work on my web series and then fly back to New York and shoot another pilot. And I really remember that summer very fondly, because I think I was 22 or 23. And it just was like, there was a lot going on, and it really felt like any one direction, like could really change the course of my career. Like if this show got picked up, that would change the course of my career. If this web series really blew up out of the water, that could change the course of my career. All these are Sorority Forever. Like, I didn't, that was like a very exciting time because I was like, I might become like an actress, or I might be a host. Like if any of these pop, I'm kind of stuck. So I better, hopefully I like what I'm doing.
Did you enjoy that, or did you stress over it?
What's that?
Were you enjoying that, or did you stress over it? I could
I
see,
loved it.
it could go either way with people.
I loved it. I just was like, I don't know what's going to happen. I have no idea what's going to happen, but either way, I have like all these really fun, awesome scenarios that have come up, and it was just really exciting. I think it was just like, wow, I have a cool job. Like it sucks sometimes, and it does suck sometimes, like really bad. But when things are happening, it's just really exciting because you have no idea, you have no control, and it's just kind of fun. You just have to let it be fun, I guess.
Now, you worked with Wilson Cleveland on a couple of shows on The Template.
Yeah.
And Justin and Alden.
Yep.
How did you tie in with Wilson? And he told us the story of how Nancy wrote her and the video interview and how that all got into Template. But how did you meet up with Wilson and get involved with those guys?
I can't remember how Wilson and I met, to be honest, but I remember him reaching out to me, and it was probably during that summer, and just saying, we'd love to have you be a part of our web series. And I said, well, I'm in New York a lot. That would be fun. I'd love to do it. And he was like, well, let's just start with something that you can do from your home in LA. He was kind of, I don't remember what the conversation was, but he was like, can you apply to be like a member of the show, like a job application? And
yeah, he was using video resumes because they were using video resumes. Yeah.
I was like, could I do a character? And he was like, sure, why not? And he gave me like a little budget for costumes, which was really, I think, cool of him, because I don't know that I would have gone out and like, I didn't have like a lot of money at the time, so I don't know that I would have like gone out and bought like a costume for the character.
Tough to pay for those braces.
So he was like, I think it was like $100 budget or something for my character. And so I went to a costume shop and I bought a wig, and I bought these like fake braces, and like bought a couple of like weird items and put them together, and Nancy was born. And I made this like video and I sent it to Wilson, and he was just like, you don't even look like yourself. He's like, this is the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life, but he loved it. And based on that, he then flew me out to New York later on in the season to actually be physically present in the show with all the other characters.
Now, did she come out of nowhere, or was she based on somebody you knew?
Based on my third grade art teacher.
Okay.
It's so true. Like my third grade art teacher talked exactly like Nancy.
All right. He cast you with Justin and Alden. You were a hot vampire, I think, in that that web show. And you've done Black Box TV.
Yeah.
That was a pretty cool episode.
Thank you.
A little different. It was a little different for you because it wasn't funny and it wasn't comedy.
Yeah, well, Sorority Forever wasn't either. Sorority Forever was a dark drama, and that was like, I was pretty much crying in every scene in that. So the comedy stuff like didn't come naturally to me at all. I actually thought that I was better at drama, I guess. And then, but Black Box, like I just really did because I love Tony Valenzuela, who runs Black Box. I love that guy so much, and he's so great to work with. And he had sort of asked me to do that video, and there wasn't any pay or anything like that. It was just kind of like supposed to be fun experience. And I just was like, yeah, I'll do it. And I loved working with Tony so much that I was just like, anytime you ever want to do anything, call me. Like I'm in. There's some people that are just not fun to work with, and you're like,
what makes him great to work with? What makes somebody great to work with?
Someone that like dives in with the actor and makes you feel like you are allowed to just have this like crazy experience. That like creates an environment where you can play in your own mind, in your own world, where you're not necessarily sticking to a script, but where you're just kind of like seeing like where this character takes you. And Tony creates that sort of environment. And I mean, I think it's just hard a lot of times in film and TV. You have to get stuff, and I had that same environment on Sorority Forever, by the way. I feel like my first few experiences on set were so amazing that I'll never necessarily have those again. Like being in these environments with directors who really cared and would sacrifice having to pay overtime to be able to get the actor to where they need to be. But I think a lot of times it's about like just getting in and getting the shot and getting it done. and not making the actor feel like they're allowed to have an experience. And so that's how it was with Tony, and that's how it was with the guys on Sorority Forever, and that's definitely not how it is on most jobs.
I was just going to ask if the good experience was the usual, or if the not so good experience was
It's not the usual. It's not the usual, but I think if you start, I also hear like a lot of the top directors very much create that environment on huge budget sets. But I think sometimes the bigger budget, like I work in TV a lot now, and I think with TV, there's definitely less room to play. You know, you have to stick to script usually because it's important, because the network has signed off on it. You're always like locked into a time schedule that's very quick and moves very, very fast. And I still love, like, I actually really, really love working in TV. But I think it does take some of the fun out of it a little bit, of the acting part of it.